All right, we are going to go over again completing the square because you're going to need to be able to complete the square quite a bit when you are working with conic sections, which is what we're going to be leading into next. So, completing the square, just so you know, when you complete the square, basically what you want to do is, and I know these are quadratic equations. Quadratic equations means that it has an x squared in them. The highest degree is a 2, and that's a quadratic equation. I know that you probably can solve some of these by factoring, and that's fabulous. I want you to be able to solve these by completing the square. So we are going to make sure that you know how to do that and remind you how to do that. Okay? So just a quick reminder, what you're going to do is you want to set these all equal to 0, okay? So I'm going to set this as x squared plus 8x minus 20 equals 0 is actually how most of them will look. It won't have the y equals in there. To solve these, that's what you want to do, is you want to pretend it's equal to 0. And then you actually, if you remember correctly, want to take this constant and move it over to the other side. And then you're going to put a blank in there. So you'll have x squared plus your x term plus a blank equals your constant. When I move the 20 over to the other side, it will be positive plus a blank. Okay? And then if you remember right, what you're going to do is you're going to figure out what half of this middle number is. So half of the middle number in this case is 4. Half of positive 8 is 4. And then when you square that number, you get 16. So again, you take half of the middle number, which is 4, square it and get 16, and that's what goes right here. And if 16 goes in the blank on the left side, it has to go in the blank on the right side. Then if you were to think about this, and I don't expect you to show me this step, but what you really have now, if you factor this, is you have something squared, because x times x makes x squared, and 4 times 4 makes 16 in the back, positive 16 in the back, and then if you add your outsides and your insides together, 4x plus 4x makes 8x, okay? So basically you have x plus 4 twice, which means you have x plus 4 squared. And then, of course, on the right side, you have 36. And now once you get to this point so that you have something squared on both sides, you can take the square root. So when I take the square to the left side, obviously that just undoes itself, and you have x plus 4. When you take the square to the right side, don't forget that you need a plus or minus there. So you actually have positive or negative 6. Super common mistake for people to to forget the positive and negative. So then I will subtract 4. So I will have x equals negative 4 plus or minus 6. And then if I take negative 4 plus 6, I have 2. And if I take negative 4 minus 6, I have negative 10. Okay, so those are my two solutions for that problem. And I think I'm actually going to skip number 2 because I think you guys can handle that. Okay, then when you get to number 3 here, I want you to notice that you have to do something a little bit different when your a value or the number, the coefficient in front of your x squared is not 1. Completing the square does not work unless that coefficient term in front of the x squared is 1. Okay? So first of all, what I need to do on this problem is I'm going to divide everything through by 2. Okay, and I'm going to divide everything through by 2 so that that is gone. And remember, I want to set this equal to 0. And by the way, 0 divided by 2 is still 0. Okay, so then what I have is I have this, x squared minus 5 half x plus 3 halves equals 0. Okay, 0 divided by 2 is still 0. You need to take this, move it to the other side, and put a blank on the left. So I'll have x squared minus 5 half x plus a blank equals, the 3 halves on the other side will be negative, of course, plus a blank. Okay, then remember, you're going to take half of the middle number, and if you can't figure out what half of negative 5 halves is, then take negative 5 halves times 1 half, and of course that gives you negative 5 fourths. And then you need to take that number and square it. So when I square negative 5 fourths, I have positive 25 sixteenths. Okay, and that's what's going to go in the blank right here, is 25 sixteenths. And if I put that on the left, I have to put that on the right. Okay? Now, what goes in the parentheses, remember, is your half of your middle number. Half of my middle number is negative 5 fourths. I got that right here. That's what's going to go in your parentheses. So x minus 5 fourths, okay, squared, equals, and then over here I need to be able to add negative 3 halves plus 25 sixteenths. And you can use your calculator for that, no problem. Negative 3 halves plus 25 sixteenths, if you get common denominators and you add, should give you 1/16. Okay, so now that's a good thing because I have two quantities that have been squared. And then I'll have square root both sides, and of course that undoes itself. Remember that when you square root a fraction, you're going to square root the numerator and you're going to square root the denominator. So the square root of 1 is 1, of course. The square root of 16 is 4. Don't forget that you need a plus and minus over there. And then on the left, of course, you'll have x minus 5/4. Okay? To solve for x, obviously you want to add 5/4. So when I add 5/4, I'll have 5/4 plus or minus 1/4. So then 5 plus 1 is 6/4 is one answer, which of course we know reduces to 3 halves. And then 5 minus 1 is 4/4, which of course we know reduces to 1. And those will be my two answers for this problem. All right. Then again, we're going to do something here that doesn't come out quite as pretty, but we can make this work. So what I am going to do first of all, actually, just so that everything is on one side of the equation, is I am going to subtract this 28, and you're going to end up moving it back. I know that, but I just want everything on one side of the equation right now, just so that I don't forget to divide through by something. So then I will have this. I will have 25x squared plus 40x, and then 16 minus 28 is negative 12. And then, of course, to solve this, you want to be able to set it equal to 0. Okay? And again, this first term that's right here, if it's anything but 1, it can't be anything but 1. So then you need to divide everything through by that. Both sides of the equation, everything through by that. Okay? So when I do that, then I will have x squared plus 40/25 reduces to 8/5. And then, oops, sorry, it should be minus there. You should have negative 12/25 equals 0. Okay? And again, of course, you want to move your constant to the other side and then put your blank in there. So you'll have x squared plus 8/5 x plus a blank equals 12/25 plus a blank. Okay? All right, again, you're going to take half of this middle number. If you don't know how to do that, we'll do that off to the side. 8/5 times 1/2. Of course, the 2 will cancel like that. And so, sorry, there should be a 4 up here. So you'll have 4/5. That's what goes in your parentheses. So x plus 4/5, half of that middle number. Half of 8/5 is 4/5. Then you'll take that quantity and square it. And when you square 4/5, you'll have 16/25. That's what goes here. Okay. So then when you add 12/25 plus 16/25, of course you have 28/25. All right. And then, of course, you're going to solve this by taking the square root of both sides. That will undo itself over here. So I will have x plus 4/5. And then over here, you'll have positive or negative the square root of 28 over the square root of 25. Okay? Now, the square root of 28 can be broken down because remember 28 is 4 times 7. And so then the square root of 4 times, or the square root of 4 is 2. And then, of course, you have root 7. And on the bottom, the square root of 25 is 5. And then, of course, you will move that 4/5 over. And when I move the 4/5 over, I will have negative 4/5 plus or minus 2 root 7 over 5. And then since you have a common denominator, I want you to put that all into one statement. Negative 4 plus or minus 2 root 7 all over 5. So that is your solution for that problem. All right. Then number 5, it says solve each equation by using the square root property. all that wants you to do is this. The left side should be something that is squared. If you try to factor this, 16x squared factors, let's see, you can go 4x and 4x, and of course 9 is positive 3, or negative 3. But then if you add your outsides and your insides together, you have 12x plus 12x, which of course makes 24x in the middle. And notice how you have the same thing in both parentheses. So you can rewrite that as 4x plus 3 squared. And of course, we have 81 on the right side. And luckily, those are both they're both perfect squares. So you can take the square root like that, and of course the square root like this, and then you'll have 4x plus 3 equals positive or negative 9. So of course 4x equals negative 3 plus or minus 9. So then x is negative 3 plus or minus 9, all divided by 4. And if you solve that then, negative 3 plus 9 is 6. Divided by 4 is 6/4, so 3/2 is one answer. And then negative 3 minus 9 is negative 12. Divided by 4 would be negative 3. So there's your two answers for your x's. Okay? And just one more very similar to that, and we will be done here. Again, this on the left side should be, when I'm asking you to solve it with a square root property, something that can be squared. So this one will be 6x and 6x and 4 and 4. And of course your outsides and your insides put together make your 48x in the middle. So this is really 6x plus 4 squared equals 12. This one doesn't come out to be quite as pretty, but you will take the square root of both sides again. And then you will have 6x plus 4 equals plus or minus root 12. And of course 12 can be broken down into 4 times 3, which breaks down into 2 root 3. Okay, subtract the 4 over. And then of course divide by 6. And then negative 4, 2, and 6 are all divisible by 2. So you can make this be negative 2 plus or minus root 3 all over 3. And that's how that reduces. So that will do that one. Okay? Hopefully that refreshes your memory on completing the square.